Okay, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to SunoikisisDC Digital Classics Summer Term 2021. So this is the last term of our 3 terms of this academic year, 2020-21, and we are back. Today, this session is not a session about a specific topic, but is an introduction to the program of this semester, and also, I have to say, a summary and a discussion of what happened in the last 2 terms, in the fall and in the spring. And this is the reason why today we also have Gabriel Bodard and Valeria Vitale, who is contributing a lot to our program, as you know. And also another thing, as you have seen in the program for this semester, we meet as usual every Thursday, but the time is a bit different because we start at 5:15 European time, Berlin time, until 6:45 p.m. So the reason is that now we will have 90 minutes, and this is good because usually, so in the past we had 75 minutes, but in the end our sessions lasted, many of them lasted about 90 minutes. So this is the first thing. The second thing, of course, is that it's due to the fact that we are following for this term the German academic calendar, and in Germany we have these hours. So to help our students in Germany, this is the reason why we're starting at 5:15 Central European Summer Time. But anyway, everything is on GitHub, and for those of you in the Google Sunoikisis group, you will receive, as today, every week, a reminder for our sessions. But today I would like to begin by presenting the program of this semester, the summer semester, and I begin by sharing my screen, so everything should work. And now here you can see the page, okay, the GitHub wiki with the program for Sunoikis Digital Classics 2020-2021. And as you know, in this page we have a list of the 3 terms, the fall 2020, then spring and summer. Now I will begin by presenting the program of summer 2021, and the program is chaired in this case by Gabriel Bodard and myself. And then after this short introduction, Gabriel and Valeria will talk about what happened in the past 2 terms. Of course, as you know, we have many topics. We cover many topics in Sunoikis Digital Classics, and we would like today to summarize what happened this year in the fall and in the spring, and what is going to happen in the summer to give you a sense of our activities. And we will also talk about the partnership with the Pelagios network for pedagogical purposes, which is a very important initiative, okay, to join efforts of Sunoikisis and Pelagios. So now I would like to go.
Monica, can I interrupt just very
Yes,
briefly?
yes, of course.
Can I just add that we have the live chat feature on YouTube, and if anyone who's watching live would like to use that to ask any questions as we go, or at the end, or make any comments, they can do so. And it would be really nice to do this week, if you are watching live, just say hi in the live chat so we know you're there. That would be really nice thing. So sorry to interrupt. Carry on, Monica.
No, Gabby, thank you very much. I was forgetting to mention the YouTube chat, which is important, and this is especially for new students. So Sunoikis you can follow Sunoikis live on YouTube, or of course after the session, because our links are there in the program. But please use the chat to ask questions, and of course to say hi, so we know that you are there and that you are following us. And today, given that we are not talking about a specific topic, but this is an introduction, please ask any questions you have about the program, about how it works, about the tools we are using, etc. Okay, so this is today we are not going to cover 90 minutes today, but we are here to answer as far as we can, of course, your questions. Okay, so thank you, Gabby, for this. And please, of course, given that I'm sharing my screen and I'm showing the program, interrupt me anytime for possible questions, because in this moment I'm not on YouTube and I can't see your questions. So interrupt me anytime you want. So now I go to the program of summer 2021. So here is our page. Again, following the German academic calendar, we have 15 weeks. And as you know, so one of the challenges of Sunoikis is, given that this is an international program, is that we have different people coming from different countries. So it's difficult to have one calendar, and but we are trying to cover as far as possible different countries. And given that, again, this term is mainly based in Germany, we are following this calendar, and this is the reason why we're starting this week. Also because due to the COVID, we are still in this situation. Also in Germany, the classes started a week late, and so this is the first week of our classes in Germany, and we will end in July, on July 22. So we have 15 sessions, except for Thursday, May 13. So we cover basically in the end 13 topics, because today we don't have a specific topic. So today this is we have this introduction, and then again in this semester we are going to talk about topics that you can find, of course, also in past years. And we are going to talk and to cover topics concerning epigraphy, computational linguistics, digital philology, name entity recognition, geoannotations, data citation, catalogs and digital libraries, and corpora. And this semester we also have at the end 2 sessions beyond classics, in the sense that Sunoikis is started as a program for working with ancient Greek and Latin mainly, but not only. Of course, we are classicists and we devote many sessions to ancient Greek and Latin, but our goal is to cover other historical languages. And so we always try to invite colleagues who can talk about projects beyond Greek and Latin. So this is our main goal. And in this sense, of course, we need your help to add more projects, to invite more people who can contribute on the use of digital technologies for studying, learning, researching historical languages, okay, of the past Mediterranean world. And this is the reason why in this semester we will have 2 sessions at the end, and in this case we have 2 sessions about Egyptology. But starting from the second session, which will be next week, we have for the second and the third session 2 sessions about epigraphy. One session teaching epigraphy in a pandemic, and Alice Bencivenni, Gabriel, Bodard, and Irene will talk about a project they are working on. And of course, due to the situation we still are due to COVID, we'll talk about also how we can use different tools for teaching epigraphy in general, in online sessions, but also in this specific situation.
Monica, could you increase the font a little bit, please?
Yes. Okay. Is it okay?
A little bit more.
A little bit more. Okay.
Perfect.
It's perfect. Okay. Excellent. Thank you. because I have a big screen. And okay, so this is next week. Then we have another session about well, a specific project. In this case, we have a corpus of inscriptions, digital epigraphic corpora, the example of the inscriptions from Israel and Palestine. And we have Michael Sutlow and Eli Milonas for this project. And I have here the main page. This is interesting because they are working a lot on the project, adding more resources, especially for linguistic annotations of inscriptions. So epigraphy, digital epigraphy is a topic that we covered many times in the past semesters of Sunoikisis, but in this case, we will spend time talking about linguistic annotations of inscriptions, not only, but also this aspect concerning this project. And the following week, on May 6th, we will have, in fact, a session about linguistic annotations of Greek and Latin inscriptions with Francesca De Loro from Lausanne. She's an expert of computational linguistics and epigraphy, and so she will be able to show different examples on how to annotate the language of ancient inscriptions. Okay, she will show how to use different tools for linguistic annotations. Then, after a break on May 13, we will have 2 sessions about computational linguistics again, and we will see 2 different tools for learning and reading ancient Greek. The first one is Pedalion, and I have here the main page. I hope you can see it. I'm trying to enlarge a bit to zoom. Okay, here it is. So we have this project, okay, develop and maintain in Leuven, and this is a tool, a platform, as you can see, for learning and reading ancient Greek. So this is an interesting session where we can see how to use NLP and computational linguistics tools and techniques for annotating Greek, but also for reading and for learning ancient Greek. Okay, so if you don't know Greek, this is an interesting session, okay, to see the tools we have today for also for learning ancient Greek. And in the 7th session, we have we will see 2 other tools again for reading and learning ancient Greek: the Diorisis and the Scaife viewer. So here I have the link to Diorisis, which is a corpus, okay? And as you can see here, where you have the main page, and you can find these links in the program in GitHub, okay? So you don't have now to look for these resources, but if you open for example, this session in GitHub, you can find the links. Of course, our sessions, or at least these pages, the class outlines are still empty, but we're going to add descriptions of each session, readings, further readings, different resources, and also exercises. So please follow these pages, and in any case, we will send reminders to the Google group, and you can follow and you can have a full description of each session. But today you can already find links to the resources that I'm showing now. So going back to the Diorisis, you have in this case the main page of this project with links to the entire corpus, the ancient Greek corpus of this project, and through this project you can run complex linguistic queries, okay, on this corpus in order to get results, but also to learn ancient Greek. And you also have in this case a link also to a paper, okay, by Alessandro Vatri and Barbara McIlvray describing the project and giving further information. So these are 2 sessions about learning and reading ancient Greek with these tools, and we will also see the use of the Scaife viewer, which is a new reading environment developed by the Perseus project and the Open Greek and Latin project, for reading ancient Greek, but also for getting information about the language and to access translations. Okay, so this is a new reading environment, and we will see how to use it if you want to read classical sources, if you want to learn the languages, if you want to annotate texts, etc., and also get commentaries about these editions. And this is a parallel project, okay, of the Open Greek and Latin Initiative and the Perseus Digital Library. Then after this session, which is session number 7, we will have 2 other sessions, number 8 and number 9. And in this case, the goal is to talk about, prosopography and onomastics in some way. And in fact, we have a first session about Trismegistos people within, and I have to zoom in because, okay, otherwise you can't see. And okay, now you can see the page. So this is a specific section of the project Trismegistos, and in this case we will focus on this resource, which is a fundamental authority list of names of ancient people, okay, in the original language, from the corpus of Trismegistos, names attested in documents from Egypt. And this is an opportunity to see how this database was produced, how we can use it in order to get information about ancient onomastics and also prosopography, even if Trismegistos people is not yet a prosopography, but of course the final goal is also to produce a prosopography. And then we will have also a session about name entity recognition and prosopography. In this case, we will explore name entity recognition and other techniques for extracting information about ancient names and connecting them, and hopefully to produce and build prosopographies. Then we will have for the 10th week a session about annotating geographical data with Recogito, and the geoannotations today are this is an interesting activity. We have wonderful tools like Recogito, and today Valeria may briefly tell us something about that. And we have also a session, many sessions in the past about annotating, producing geo annotations. And then after that, we will have, and sorry, I have also a link to the main page of Recogito, this web-based platform tool for geoannotations, but not only, because today you can, in Recogito, you can annotate not only place names, but also personal names and other entities. You can also annotate images. So this is a wonderful tool, providing many interesting features. And also automatic name entity recognition now is available for modern languages, but there are also experiments for historical languages, especially for Latin. And of course, going back to Recogito, you can also find guidelines and documentation in the website helping you to use this tool, which is really very user-friendly. Then we will cover after that a first session on week 11, June 24, data citation for historical text and the Cited Loci project. In this case, we want to talk about data citation. We talk a lot about data citation in the past for historical text, historical languages. And during this session, we will talk again about these topics of how to cite data. And Matteo Romanello will present specifically a project, the Cited Loci project. And here we have again a link to to part of the project whose goal is to annotate references to classical authors and their works. And in this case, the goal is to extract information about references to classical authors and works in secondary sources like papers and books, and specifically in this case from JSTOR. But also in the following session, week 12, we will have we will talk again about data citation, because we will have a session about the digital Latin library with Sam Husky, which is an important project today, building a corpus of Latin authors, but also producing a new catalog for Latin authors and works, and a new canon of Latin authors and works. And so definitely in that session, we will talk a lot about how to identify, okay, how to cite in a machine-readable way ancient authors and their works with all their complexity. So these two sessions, session 11 and 12, are connected because they are about canonical citations of historical works. And again, we will focus on two projects mainly devoted to Greek and Latin authors, but the idea is to show how to cite historical text in general. So these methods can be applied also to other literatures in other historical languages. Then we have another session in week 13. We have a project that was developed in the past here in Leipzig, EAQUA, and this is the first time that we present this project. This is a project with many sub-projects using computational linguistic techniques, text mining, for querying different corpora of ancient Greek and Latin, including the Tilgid, Perseus, Open Greek and Latin, for extracting information from this corpora. There are also parts of the project devoted to text reuse, textual alignment, and other possibilities, also comparing different texts for producing critical editions. And this is an acronym, sorry, EAQUA is an acronym of this long expression, okay, in German, that you can see here in the main page. And again, you find all these links in GitHub. And then finally, for the two last sessions, we will have guests for going beyond classics, and we will have a first session with Rita Lucarelli from Berkeley and Franziska Netter from Leipzig, talking about this project, the Book of the Dead in 3D. And also here you can see the main page of this project. In Sunoikisis, we have many sessions about using 3D technologies, and in this case, we have a new session about this project that was not presented before in Sunoikisis, and so Rita Lucarelli will be able to introduce this project and talk more about 3D for Egyptology. And so this is not really, so this is again, we are going to this a topic about 3D. And then finally, for the last session, which is the 15th week, we have another project about Egyptology. In this case, we'll have Susanne Töpfer working in Turin, in the Egyptian Museum, and she will present the Turin Papyrus Online platform. Also, in this case, I can show you the main page of the project, and this is a new project developed by the Egyptian Museum in Turin, in Italy, for their papyrus collection. So in this case, we present again a topic that was presented many times in the past in Sunoikis, is about digital papyrology, but in this case with a new project which is the papyrus collection of the Museo Egizio from Turin. Okay, so this is really a short introduction to the topics we have in this semester. You can see here the list, also the names of our guests, and I already thank all of them for contributing to the program. I have to say also with a lot of enthusiasm, so I'm always very, very grateful to many colleagues who are helping us in developing Sunoikisis. Sunoikisis started 6 years ago. We are still here, and really we have every year many sessions with a lot of material, exercises, readings, etc. And also in this main page, we have an introductory reading list with a bibliography, okay, that you can consult for, in general, the topics that we discuss in Sunoikisis about digital classics, but not only. And you have different resources, open access resources that you can consult and you can use for your personal interest, for getting more information in general about the topics that we cover in our program, and also in your classes if we are using our resource for teaching digital classics. And you have the links here. And again, finally, of course, our sessions maybe follow on the Sunoikisis Digital Classics YouTube channel. Okay, you have the link to the channel, and as I was saying before, for every week we have a class outline. Again, class outlines are still empty because our guests are working on the program, but every week before the session, you will have a complete description with the outline, readings, resources, and we always have an exercise or more exercises for each session. And for every session, you also have the YouTube link if you don't have it. And then we also, usually every week, we upload the slides that our colleagues are producing. But now I think, so I don't know if, of course, if you have questions about the program, you can ask questions now or later. You can also email me and for any questions. But now I think I can go back to the wiki, because in the wiki, and this is the wiki of this academic year 2020-2021, but you can find the same wiki also for the past 5 years, and you find links to the 2 other terms of Sunoikisis, the fall term, Sunoikisis Digital Classics, and then the Sunoikisis Digital Cultural Heritage. And again, also in these through these two links, you can get a complete list of the sessions held in the fall and in the spring with, in this case, you can see a complete description. You can find really many resources, readings, links, and exercises. But now I think that my colleague, and now I'm back, Gabby and Valeria can say more about what happened in the 2 past terms of Sunoikisis.
Sure, great, thank you, Monica. And it's lovely to see that we have people joining us here from several from Ain Shams in Cairo, people from Leipzig and Stuttgart in Germany, and from Araraquara in Brazil. And one person who hasn't said where they're from. So there's lots and lots of people who've said hi in the live chat. So hi to all of you as well. That's great. Yeah, Monica, do you want to share my screen just quickly? I'm showing the program for the fall 2020. So I've been involved in the 2 previous semesters this academic year. The fall semester this year we ran under the subject of digital classics, which was largely digital philology in the sense. So it was the very text focused. In the spring we ran the program which I'll be talking about in a moment, which is digital approaches to cultural heritage. I abbreviate that to digital cultural heritage in my mind, but I know digital cultural heritage means something slightly different. So we should say digital approaches to cultural heritage, just to be absolutely clear. So in this program, which was co-organized as well as by me, by Monica, and by also Irene Vajanakis and Polina Jordanova, is on the subject of basically approaches to text and language primarily. So we have three broad strands through this. There's the one strand which is markup and text encoding. There's one strand which is digital approaches to linguistics, and there's another strand which is to do with collaborative research interfaces. And you can sort of see those strands through the topics in this page, but you will occasionally see a topic which maybe looks like it might fit in more than one of those strands, and that's not an accident. That's because these strands overlap. We started with an introduction to concepts behind open source software, but also some of the core tools for collaborative working in the digital world, things that would be really useful to you if you're starting out a career as a student in digital humanities generally, or digital classics in particular, including the use of the command line tool, the use of Git for sharing code and so forth, and resources. We then had several sessions on things related to markup and text encoding. So we had the introduction to markup, where we talked about markup, but we didn't really talk about XML. We talked about markup in a slightly more abstract level. We talked a little bit about XML, but we also talked about using Markdown and HTML and other things like this to mark up texts, which we then followed with a session on Epidoc, which is a very specific XML markup language. It's a version of the TEI language applied to ancient texts, originally inscriptions of papyri, but other kinds of ancient texts as well. And then the third one on that sort of strand was the web annotation session, which Monica and Valeria led, and which we might hear a bit more about some of the content to that later. The computational linguistics strand had an introduction to computational linguistics, which was really talking about the sort of very high-powered computationally led research into linguistics you can do. And then we had the session on using tree banks in week 7, which was very much this morphosyntactic annotation, which there are high-end, high-powered computational approaches to that, but there's also the very human powered hand annotation of tree banks, which is a very valuable way of working. And that's one of the things we really got the students involved in doing, was in tree banking the texts themselves, and getting experience of doing that. And then we talked about translation technologies, and in particular translation alignment and text alignment, which was a very valuable demonstration of this tool, which has actually been built in Leipzig, the Ugarit iAligner, which is very cool. And then on the collaborative front, we had the open source introduction. We had a session on using Wikimedia Commons as research, which is both something which is a very high-powered set of resources, but also something to which we can contribute in various ways. And then we had a session on visualization, which is a way of communicating research, but also as a way of finding a different way to understand the texts and the materials we're looking at by viewing them in a different way. So that's sort of the shape of the semester and the way it ran. Each week included a very hands-on practical technical exercise where we asked where I asked my students to do these exercises in a compulsory way, and some other people did as well, but they were made available to anyone watching who might want to do that sort of exercise or some of those exercises. And I know some people in particular only watched some of the episodes, not my students who watched all of them, but some people, from the public, and watched some of these sessions, or watched them in a different order, or combined some from this year with some from last year, and approached them in different ways. And I know some people enjoyed doing the exercises and asking for feedback on them, which was quite nice to see, people other than just my students benefiting from these things, and our students from the others who were involved in organizing that. In the spring semester then, we, a slightly different group of people, organized this Sunoikisis Digital Approaches to Cultural Heritage program, and Valeria was involved in this through, in particular, the geographic strand, and also Andrea Wallace from Exeter and Alicia Walsh, an archaeologist who runs a company called Recollection Heritage. And the strands running through this were even more difficult to disentangle than the ones in the digital classics session. So we had, technically, we had a strand on 3D approaches, a strand on geographical approaches, and a strand on legal and ethical and intellectual property issues that interact with those. Now, of course, you can see already the overlaps between several of these. 3D and geography overlap in a couple of different places. Ethics overlap with both of those things. Questions of restitution are deeply involved in 3D modeling and so forth. So we had these sessions. So we had a couple of sessions which were quite practical introductions to 3D imaging and scanning, and then the final session of quite practical introduction to 3D modeling. And then we had this session in week 7 on publishing 3D models. So those were the three 3D sessions, which had quite different technical approaches. But there's also overlap in almost all of those with the ethics questions. The sessions on community mapping, on linked geographical data, and on geographical information systems were the ones technically on the geographic strand, but the intangible cultural heritage strand actually used mapping technologies as one of its major examples in there. And then the ethics strand, although every session had some of this content in, but the ones that were really hardcore talking about that and intellectual property and so forth were the session on Wikipedia, the session on intangible cultural heritage, and the session on intellectual property and restitution, which benefited hugely from the contributions of Andrea Wallace, who is a professor of law in the University of Exeter, and has brings a slightly different perspective to what classicists bring to this. She studies art law, and so is very, very interested in the intellectual property implications of the sorts of things that we study. And we blithely assume, well, the author's been dead for more than 70 years, usually for several thousand years, but there are complexities not only to in legal terms, but also in ethical terms, in terms of expectations and assumptions and so forth. Having said all of this, I should say this really I think really nice and really elegant structure, where there are these various different overlapping themes, is actually very largely Valeria's input on this, because before I ran this year's Digital Approaches to Cultural Heritage, Valeria had been running this program for a couple of years already, and I think it's during that time that this nice interaction between different strands of activity has been brought into this. So I'll invite Valeria to say something about how that came together and the sort of people who contributed to that.
Oh, thank you, Gabby, and thank you, Monica, for this very interesting introduction. I want to, follow Sunoikisis every year as a student. Yes, I think that the overlap that you highlighted, Gabby, both in the spring semester and in the fall one, was really only natural, because I think that sometimes when we teach, tools and methods of digital humanities and digital classic, we are a little bit artificially, pushed to teach them one at a time, as if they were, little monads that live on their own, while in reality, I think the most interesting projects in digital humanities and digital classics are those that use many of these tools together and that can really leverage the interaction between different approaches. And that became, very, very clear to us with the interaction between 3D approaches and more geographically oriented one, because they were often very much connected to, the idea of representing places. So especially when, working with 3D representation of buildings, it was, of course, quite a small step to go from there to a slightly, a broader view of, the landscape and the relationship between various places. And so there were many interesting connections to be drawn on. And I think also the idea of having sort of, thematic strands was also interesting, because within one, let's say, area, we could maybe compare different kind of approaches and see, strengths and weaknesses of each and what they can do better. So in what occasions might be better to use more one approach, and in what occasions it might be better to go for another choice. So, for example, we always try to have a class on GIS technologies, because that's, a very, very useful tool for archaeologists, for ancient historians, for classicists. It enables to create maps, to analyze place information, sometimes from a quantity perspective. It enables to create layers and ask very interesting questions, create nice visualizations, and it's definitely a very, very useful tool. But it's not always, the best tool maybe for incomplete information, or for, when we talk about places where we don't know the coordinates, or that kind of, more nuanced geographical information, like, for example, literary places, non-existing places, and so on. So what other approaches are there when we are not, let's say, dealing with coordinates? And then we can introduce a more, let's say, relational idea of place, so that is based more on the use of identifiers and entities, and the definition of, the relationship that link these concepts, so gazetteers and so on. And about the more ethical strand, I think that all of our classes should, to an extent, overlap with that. And I think that the contribution that Andrea brought last year was really, really an interesting twist that we didn't have in previous years, and I think it made it a very interesting and engaging perspective, talking about culture heritage, and remembering that when we talk about cultural heritage, we're also talking about identities and things that really matter to people and their lives. So I went on. I rambled a lot about this. I hope that I talked about the things that you were expecting me to talk about, Gabby.
Yes, no, perfect. That was yeah, exactly what was valuable. So I just wanted to show one more thing before I stop rambling on about the previous sessions, is that this year, because I normally use the Sunoikis sessions very, very closely as the guide for my classes. And so my students watch a Sunoikis 1 week, we meet in a seminar, we discuss it the next week. Because this academic year, we haven't been meeting in a seminar room for obvious reasons. People watching this in the future, in 2020 and 2021, there was a large pandemic, which meant we stayed at home quite a lot. So rather than having these discussions in a classroom, as we have been doing in the past, and presumably will be doing again in the future, we tried to to do some of this, the discussion that we would normally take there in slightly different ways. So the detailed discussion of the exercise we did in, in an online video call with the whole class, because people talking about the implications of an exercise and technical issues with the exercise and that sort of thing there was no other way to do that but in real time, and with the possibility to screen share and so forth. But for discussion of things like the bibliography, where I always give my students 2 articles to read every week, and then we talk about them. That I didn't think that a video call was the most effective way to have that conversation with a large group of people. So we experimented with using these online forums, and for that we just used the GitHub issues feature. And it was very, very effective. You can see here the sort of shape of that. Students all had lots and lots to say, and they commented on each other's comments, and there was lots of back and forth. And I think this was quite an interesting exercise. And I think when we come back to classroom teaching, I think I will in future be using some sort of hybrid model of classroom discussion and online discussion to use the best features of each. So that was just something I wanted to add. And because we've been doing everything online for a long time in Sunoikisis already, that was a very natural migration to make. Yeah.
Yes, one thing about that, so Gabby, thank you for showing this, because so this is very important, because you can see the work of the students, and Sunoikisis since the beginning, the goal of Sunoikisis is not only to teach something, but also to involve students in contributing to produce data, to learn how they can contribute to produce data. And this is something that is happening, because we have, so if you navigate in GitHub, in the Sunoikisis repositories, you can find also data produced by students. We also uploaded presentations in the past, thanks to colleagues who are running Sunoikisis in parallel with us around the world. But this is the first time that we try, and Gabriel did that last semester with his students in London, to have them writing these commentaries. Okay, so the pandemic, I have to say, was, in spite of this difficult situation, was an opportunity to experiment with this possibility we have in GitHub. And I have to say that also the original Sunoikisis, which was developed by the Center for Hellenic Studies in Washington, DC, offer this possibility, okay, especially for the seminars, for planning the syllabi. And again, so we have now this new thing. I'm not going to ask students this semester to write these commentaries, because they have other other tasks. They will have other assignments, but in any case they will write also papers. But this is certainly something that I will do in the future, and quite certainly in the fall. So this is just for every one of you, so you can also read these commentaries. They are online, so you can see how students are concretely contributing to the program, not just learning. Okay, so thank you for showing this and for working on this. And I could follow this, and I can say that it was really a lot of work. So students wrote a lot. I know that, because every week I got messages from GitHub following the repositories, and I could get messages, and I was really astonished to see how students were involved and how they contributed to the program. Okay, so I think maybe, so this is what we have. There was, a question about the session. I apologize, but I lost the reference to the session. So Gabby was talking about a specific session. Maybe Gabby, you but I don't know.
So this is this question from Chris. Do you want to just click on it and put it on the screen a second? If you click on his comment, it'll come up on the screen. Yeah. So I think when he posted this this comment, was while I was showing the fall semester. So I think he was talking about how that semester is organized in quite a different way to the current semester. Some overlap, but with a slightly different organization. And I guess the question is about, you know, is that overlap a feature or a bug? I guess is the question. And I think I would say as a sort of preliminary answer is that it's definitely a feature. Even if some of the sessions are on very similar topics, it's really interesting to hear different people talking about those topics, or even the same person talking about it with a year's more experience behind them, and so forth, and with slightly different perspectives. And you know, over the last 6 or so years of production of YouTube videos on this, we must have about 10 videos on tree banking. You know, probably 5 videos on photogrammetry, you know, probably 20 videos on Recogito, you know, all sorts of different approaches to these things. And I don't think any of that is wasted. I don't think I would want this year to say to my students, watch last year's video instead of this year's video, because it's a perfectly good video and it does lots of good things, but we're going to do slightly different things this year. And the organization, of course, is different. And I think that structure makes a difference. I don't know if you have other perspectives on that, Monica.
No. I totally agree with you. So this is how it works. Definitely, this is a feature, and it's true that we are going to repeat in some way topics, because of course within, let's use this label, digital classics, okay, Sunoikis and in the names Sunoikis digital classics, the goal is to cover what we have today in research, in scholarship about digital classics, and the main topics are about digital philology, computational linguistics, digital epigraphy, papyrology, archaeology, now 3D visualization. So of course we are going we try to cover all these topics every year and every semester, but for every session we have new guests, new problems, new data, and so this is the reason why you can find in some way overlaps. And also we are working in different institutions. We are considering the needs of our students, of the institutions where we work, and the project we are working on. So it's really teaching and research together.
I think that also having the same theme, the same topic discussed by different people gives the opportunity to a student that is particularly interested in that topic, not to have only one class about it, but to be able to go back to, you know, 2 or 3 years and get hold of the previous videos about that, which will be given by other experts, citing other examples, showing other tools. So absolutely, yeah. I'm
very interested in Aurelien's comment, yeah.
Yes, exactly. So our colleague Aurélien Berrat from Paris writes that, okay, his students work on an overview of Sunoikis digital classic from the start. And well, yes, Aurélien, of course, we would be happy to know about this experience. And because now we really have hundreds of sessions in Sunoikis, and sometimes we don't remember what we did originally. But if you can share this experience, so we would be very, very, very happy. Also because we know that you, Aurélien, and your students have been contributing to the program. So you know the program since the beginning, and so you know how it works.
Yeah, I'd be very interested to see that as well. I know one thing that I've done just for a couple of very small areas. So, for example, I've been through and found every single time we talked about Epidoc, which is, again, as you can imagine, quite a few times since 2014 or whenever we started doing this. And I've collected those links because, you know, we have videos in Epidoc tutorials. So we've got, you know, all those links in there, in addition to the very Epidoc specific ones that we've been producing for the Epidoc community. I know Paulina went through and did the same for all the sessions we've done on tree banking, and you can find those in the Digital Classicist wiki, or on the article for tree banking has a list of all the Sunoikisist videos we've ever done on either on how to annotate tree banks and how to use tree banks after the fact. But I'd love to see that done for lots of other topics as well, especially those topics we might have only done once or twice.
We've done the same with all the Recogito tutorials, and all the times that we talked about gazetteers, they have been collected in the Pelagius Network repository. Brilliant. So there is a list with all the links to the Sunoikisist sessions about these topics.
Would you think it was a good idea to duplicate that list in the Digital Classicist wiki? That would be a nice place to collect it.
Yeah, sounds good. Yeah, and it would be very quick because it would be a matter of copy and paste.
Yes. And GitHub, fantastic.
Yes, if it is on GitHub, Aurélien, of course, please share with us the link. And okay, thank you. Okay, you will share. Thank you very much. And then, okay, we have Anise from Brazil. We have a strong community in Brazil, and I always repeat that my first session of Sunoikisist was from Brazil when I was invited there. And okay, and then we have other questions. Oh yes, so Usama, okay, our colleague and friend Usama, is it possible to have subtitles activated in the live stream for those who are following from Cairo? Okay, yes, so
I can address that briefly. What I've noticed is that YouTube only activates automatic subtitles after a certain amount of time. So it's not immediately activated on there. For us to add subtitles would be very time consuming. But the automatic subtitles, I mean, if you look at a Sunoikisist video from last year, they're almost certainly there. You can click on closed captions and you'll get them. They will be pretty bad because we use a lot of terminology that they're not particularly used to. We have a range of people with different regional accents and different non-English accents that it sometimes it struggles with a little bit. So the subtitles are pretty bad, but they're a start. Especially as you say, if you want to be able to correct those or use those as a basis for your translation and so forth. But live subtitles, I'm afraid, is not something that YouTube offers for free, and I'm not quite sure yet what the solution would be to that.
Yes, and we had a similar question in the past for students from Brazil, and I have to mention that there were students contributing by providing subtitles, okay, in Portuguese. So this is a possibility, but of course this means a lot of work. In any case, this can be an exercise for students who want to translate in their native language terms about digital classics. But yes, maybe in the future we will have this possibility. So thank you for mentioning this. Yeah.
I believe if Anisa's last comment, I believe that you can still add subtitles to it. You just need to have you need to be logged in as Sunoikisist in order to add subtitles to a Sunoikisist video. But I believe that anybody can edit and add. Not anybody, but you can add subtitles to your own video. Or you can upload subtitles in the standard subtitle format, the same format that is used for movies and so forth, to the site. So yes, if you had either volunteers or you had the potential to pay somebody to produce subtitles either in English or in other languages for the video, we could certainly activate that. It's just we don't currently have those resources to do that, but it certainly YouTube does have that feature as far as I'm aware.
Yeah,
exactly. If you
yes, yeah. And then.
But Anise, as you're part of the Sunoikisist community, you do own the video, right? We all own these videos, so.
Yes. Oh, yes, of course. We own the video. So, and let us know if there are features that we have to activate, of course, through the Sunoikisist channel. Okay, I don't know if I'm missing questions or comments, but I'm very happy to see today many questions in the chat. So really, thank you. And in the end, we were worried. I was worried, at least, for this first session to cover just a few minutes. But in the end, is 1 hour. So, but because yes, we have many things to comment. And thanks to the community for participating in it. Okay, so I think, okay, I don't know if you see other questions. The last thing, of course, I mentioned that we have a partnership with the Pelagios network for pedagogical purposes, which is a very interesting connection. So Sunoikis is part of Pelagios network. I don't know, Valeria, if you want just to add a few words about that very briefly.
Oh yes, thank you. Very briefly, because yeah, it's been longer than we thought. This discussion in a nice way. I just like to say that actually, I think the Sunoikisis has been a very nice precedent in a way for the Pelagios network, because the main idea of the Pelagios network is basically being an association where the various partners do their work, but together. So they basically work together towards an end that benefits them all. So without doing any extra work, but basically doing some parts of their research or their projects in a more let's say collaborative way, so that everyone can get something out of it. And I think that basically the idea of Sunoikisis, where different people around the world put together their resources to create a very nice program that everyone can use, was a very, very similar idea. So I think that in a way Sunoikisis is one of the ideal references for the Pelagios network. And in particular, there is one of the activities in the network. There are six let's say thematic activities in the network that the partners can decide to join. And the one I am more involved with, and I also represent Sunoikisis in, is the documentation and pedagogy one, which again, I mean, its aim is so close to Sunoikisis, and it's about creating free collaborative educational resources, free documentation that everyone can use. And as I was saying, I mean, the things that we have created for Sunoikisis have been one of the starting points for the repository of resources that we have started, and everyone is welcome to contribute. And we're trying to gather there all tutorials, all description of workflows, for example. So how to go from using Recogito to maybe using a network analysis tool, or how to go from a download in Recogito to a GIS tool, and so on. We are trying to involve an international community. So some of the tutorials are being, for example, translated into Spanish. We have actually a beautiful translation of Recogito tutorial in Arabic, courtesy of Usama. So we are also trying to look at offering a bit of a diversity in the languages. And yeah, I mean, in general, I think that there are, it was an ideal marriage, really, between Sunoikisis and the Pelagios network, and in particular this activity. And I hope that we can exchange resources as often as we can.
Okay, Valeria. Yeah.
The flip side of that is that several of the tools produced either by or under the aegis of the Pelagios network, or the Pelagios project as it was before, including especially Recogito, but also things like Peripleo, have been so perfectly designed for pedagogical use that from the very first Sunoikisis semester in 2014, was it, Monica? Sunoikis Digital Classics semester. I mean, we included a session on annotation, which Recogito helped to make us be able to say this is something anyone can do and not be lying. It was really good.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Is a fantastic tool. So Valeria, really, thank you also for this. And Valeria has been working a lot also for the partnership. So we are very, very grateful to Valeria for all her work. So I think that's it for today. And as you can see, so we cover more than 1 hour because we have many things. So, but for today, okay, so thank you all for your participation, for using the chat, which was good to show in general how we can use the chat from YouTube to participate in the discussion. Okay, so really thank you to our listeners on YouTube. Thank you to those who will follow us later today or in the next weeks. And thank you, Gabi, of course, and Valeria for for this session. So we will meet again next week. Next Thursday, when we have our first session about digital epigraphy and teaching epigraphy in a pandemic. So for today, I wish you a nice, well, day, night, wherever you are in the world. We are in different time zones. And again, thank you very much and see you next week. Okay.
Thank you.
Bye. Ciao. Bye-bye. Bye.